and more, and of course the rich getting richer.
En rijk alleen maar rijker wordt. Dus,
zie daar jouw taak.
So, that is where you find your task to inform the people.
Ja,
yes, that is why we currently give lectures in the Netherlands and Belgium.
In Nederland en in België.
That is not just me but also colleagues. We are slowly arriving at how to solve this part.
Indeed, yes.
Because it is all fun. Well, it isn't really fun, but when you get to the bottom of how this world functions, the world I found myself in, and how it still bulldozes over everything, making the world worse and worse with all its programs and agendas. All business models, that includes vaccinations, all of a sudden, a pandemic arises. And the Dutch run to their doctor to get their shots, not to get sick.
That is getting less, by the way.
Yes, fortunately there is a tendency downward. I remember this other not even existing pandemic. With the former minister Klink, who later had to, after everybody got swine flu or avian flu vaccinations. Of some sort, anyway, very scary.
H1N1 or something.
Yes, and it turns out he still had many surplus vaccines. And it had to be processed through highly chemical disposal mechanisms. Because of the hazard it formed to all life, to nature. But shooting it into people was not a problem, of course. Anything else was not done, because it was life-threatening. However, that is just a business model, looking at the stocks, after the pandemic, of pharmaceutical industry in the months afterwards. Well, they had peak months. They had billions in extra profit. So, multinationals also play a key role in this game. You can determine this, not just me. Many academics have been reporting this as well. The multinationals and banks have become the dominant players in this world. On this earth. They use all these systems and mechanisms we just mentioned, the free states. That is very important, because we granted them the required immunity. It is the ideal situation for psychopaths. Like a father saying to his child, do whatever you want, I'll take care of it. In a way, it all boils down to that. They get away with anything. It's the world's biggest villain's wet dream they have created. That is what leaves us in the situation we are in now. Brussels currently dictates over 80% of what happens in the Netherlands. There are currently all sorts of campaigning to get everybody to vote, which is to make you agree with the current system.
And to instill the illusion that we live in a democracy.
To make one feel like they have contributed to the democracy and real change is about to happen. But if people are looking back at the last 40 years, what has actually changed? Which of the political topics have actually made a change in the campaign?
It's the mask they are wearing that changes, the core remains.
Because nothing of the people who are dedicating themselves to these parties, they are decent people that stand for their principles and do want to make a change. However, as soon as the coalition has to be formed, they are sworn in not on the people, but on the higher powers, for example in this case, the king. That is where the change lies, that doesn't take many words. If you look at how ministers rule the country and how things only worsen for most of us, except for a few. And you also look at the political careers of these people and where they end up. I end up thinking, okay. The literal meaning of minister is servant. But who are you serving if I look at the pattern of your career during your service but also afterwards? I mean, Minister De Jager used to be Minister of Finance during the period of the ESM approval. I don't see him walking around as postman. I know he has a top position in that world now. I don't begrudge him that position. But it does tell you something. It tells you something. Had it been only one case, you would have been, well, okay, such can happen, but it follows a pattern. You see a small group of people. That's why I call the governments puppets, and therefore they are also the connections between us and the powers. They are playing their role. They sell a part of themselves, otherwise we would not see this pattern. Then we would actually see the promises during the campaigns, after the elections being fulfilled. Look at all the election programs. Who says we need to completely change the economic, financial, monetary system? That we need to get rid of the banks as we know them currently. I found one. But if we talk about the major players who are on stage now, because even Forum for Democracy can count themselves lucky if they manage only one office. Let alone the political parties you really expect something from, like big changes. They are under the radar and they even do not come to the light. While we see the citizen initiatives who have a very pure program that will really serve us in there, which is what it is all about.
And having potential?
And do have the potential, absolutely. So the movement of the people is there, from out of a citizen movement, you could say. I think one of the parties participating the elections, which actually carries that name in my view, it is called Burgerbeding. Well, if you see those programs, I think, wow, they should have those 140, 150 government offices.
They don't get any attention.
Then we'd have real representation of the wish of the people and the system would actually serve us. A system for all of us. But that doesn't happen. Why? The current powers don't allow it and manipulate everything in such a way that nothing will fundamentally change.
Using the media, because they don't get any attention in the mainstream. People don't even know these parties exist, which is obviously a serious matter.
It is only locally, here and here, a bit of this and a bit of that. They don't have the means to break through. You don't only need support, you also need money. You need connections to get into the mainstream.
After part 1 of our interview, quite a lot has happened. It went viral worldwide. In the meantime, we have Spanish subs, Finnish, French. Italy did publish the video. It is really incredible. What happened to you afterwards?
Yes, I never experienced such in my life. It even did not come to my mind that this would happen. I was actually doing something very different when we did the interview, and perhaps it is good to mention this. I experienced a very heavy and intense life, until today, which has split into a first life and a second life, a real death. And I've actually decided for myself the last 2.5 years to do something with the trauma I have incurred. And there are quite a few, because I got stuck.
Again?
I got stuck in myself, yes. So, I've been lucky enough to embrace a specialist who was able to deal with trauma processing. And from there I made little steps which eventually led me to share with the audience. Just like we did.
Courageous.
That is a lot of processing. But it also has a lot to do with my new life, which has been running for some 22 years now. I started a positive life. I became a social entrepreneur and I am very committed to life. And I saw, especially from the Netherlands. The Netherlands, as you might say, is quite a country of parochialism. And where often a culture is expanding from out of ignorance, but especially from out of fear. And I already saw it on forehand, because of the manifestations I am working on in my life, are becoming so big, worldwide, worn by humanity, that I already felt it. If I do not clear myself up inwardly, as well as outside myself, then unfortunately I know the Dutch people and their mentality too well. If something gets beautiful and becomes a success, it needs to be broken. That is apparently tradition in the Netherlands. There are only a few things that are praised in the Netherlands. Yes, if our soccer team wins a world championship, then we are all happy and that is positive. But when it comes to essential things that are good for us, they often break you down. And I thought, if I get more clean inside and I become more and more strong through trauma processing, just like the manifestation outside myself, the moment will come that the Dutch will show their nasty tendency, we are going to destroy it. Then you better clean your own slate completely, make everything clear, where you come from. Then they cannot do anything with it anymore. Because after all, it is not about me. It is about the manifestation. Because once a manifestation has been realized, I am going to start something else. So, that is the way I started. To get rid of it from within, it gave me a lot of relief. It freed me enormously. It was really a kind of birth. I also found it very intense. I have to say I have seen worldwide what has happened. In the meantime, I have heard that over 18 million people have watched the interview. Moreover, about part 2, I am not sure, but from part 1, which has been published before, more than 18 million. Part 2, who knows, some more, but perhaps the same. That was not just about me but also about the current power structure here on Earth. The financial system, because people need to know about that. But I did not expect this to happen. I did not hope for this either.